In this video, I want to share with you a workflow for learning vocabulary using mnemonics and a memory palace. We're going to learn 10 fruit names in French. Let me start by going through these 10 words quickly, just so you know what they mean. Le fruit, of course, means the fruit. Pomme is apple. Orange is orange. Banane is banana. Fraise is strawberry. Framboise is raspberry. Poire is pear. Pêche is peach. Raisin is grape. And citron is lemon. Our first step will be to decide on the mnemonics we want to use for each word. For a word like fruit, which is spelled the same and means the same thing as the English fruit, our mnemonic can just be the actual thing. In other words, we can just use fruit as our mnemonic. For a word like pomme, which is completely different to the English, we can use either the spelling or the sound to create an image. I'm going to use the pommel of a sword as my mnemonic, and to encode the meaning of apple, I can imagine a sword with a golden apple as the pommel. Orange is again identical to the English, so I can just use an actual orange. If you're studying French and understand the rules of spelling and pronunciation, you'll know to pronounce this word as orange. When we create mnemonics, we want to encode as much information as possible. So for a word like banane, which is similar to what we know already, we want to create a mnemonic to help us remember where it is different. I'm going to think of someone's nan, or grandma, eating bananas because she doesn't have any teeth left, and bananas are soft. This helps me remember that the word ends with nan. For fraise, I think of the show Frasier. For framboise, I think of a farm girl from Boise, Idaho. Perhaps she's blowing raspberries. For poire, I think of the Agatha Christie character Poirot, who was himself rather pear-shaped in the TV series. For pêche, this sounds like the start of pêchoirie nan, so I'll think of pêchoirie nan stuffed with peaches. For raisin, I'm going to use raisins, which are just dried grapes. If you want to say raisins in French, you say raisin sec, which literally means grape dried. Finally, for citron, I'm going to use a citron car. And since cars can be described as lemons, this is a fun play on words that will help the meaning stick. Okay, now that we have our mnemonics, there are 2 more steps to take to finish the storage process. We need to put these mnemonics in space, and we can connect them with a story. While you could do either of these steps next, I prefer organizing the mnemonics first, and I'll show you why. Spatial organization is one of the most powerful ways of storing additional information related to what you're learning. So what additional information do we need to store here? Well, in this list, we have the definite articles that accompany each word. The article tells us the gender. So we can organize the mnemonics in space to encode the grammatical gender of each word. We know already that anything in this room is going to be a type of fruit. As you can see, however, we also have all the masculine words on the left and the feminine words on the right. It doesn't matter which side you use for which gender, but you want to be consistent in your organization, or you may end up getting things confused. By doing this, just remembering the location of a mnemonic tells us the topic and the gender of that word. I'll just point out that if you've gone through our map of French grammar, this step is not really necessary, as the endings of fruit, raisin, and citron all mark them as masculine nouns already. So if you've already stored the grammar, you don't necessarily need to worry about separating masculine and feminine nouns spatially when learning vocabulary. For beginners, however, this is a useful step and will help you start to see the patterns of what makes a masculine versus a feminine noun. As a final step, we can create a story or stories to tie these mnemonics together. Depending on your preferences and existing familiarity with the language, you could potentially skip this step, but doing it will really cement all the vocabulary in your long-term memory. And it provides an opportunity to add extra information about the meaning of the words into your memory palace. Since this is functional vocabulary we're learning, the order of the words doesn't really matter, but it's easier to create a story that flows through the room in a natural way. This is why it's best to do that spatial organization before creating a story, as otherwise our masculine and feminine nouns would have been jumbled. Being conscious of this and intelligent in how you proceed, you're not actually adding any work to do, but you're getting a lot more out of the process. Okay, so here's my story, and this is just an example. There once was a bunch of fruit who went on a trip to the desert. The grapes got lost and dried up into a bunch of raisins before anyone could find them. They tried to rush the grapes to get help in an old citron, but the car was a lemon, and they ended up stranded in the desert until a Bedouin showed up with his caravan. The leader carried a sword with a pommel in the shape of an apple. He took all the fruit prisoner. He gave the orange to his bride, and the banana he gave to his nan, who was old and had no teeth left. The Bedouin sat in his tent that evening eating strawberries and cream and watching reruns of Frasier. He then watched a program about a farm girl from Boise, Idaho, who couldn't speak, but communicated by blowing raspberries. In the morning, he was surprised to see the pear-shaped Detective Poirot had showed up to solve the mystery of the vanished fruit. Poirot, of course, solved the mystery, even finding pieces of peach in some freshly baked Peshwari naan. Once you have stored all the content in your memory, the next stage is to practice recalling and producing the vocabulary, as well as working on the details of pronunciation, so that the words flow naturally and instinctively whenever you want to use them in actual speech. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more videos on language and memory. Please also check out Linguisticator.com for our complete courses in memory and French, as well as our free course in how to learn a language.